All right, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of How to Build a Game Studio. I am Trevor Oz, and I am joined today by our artist extraordinaire, Moody.
What's up, people?
What's going on, Moody? How are you?
I'm doing good, Trevor. How you been?
I've been good. I can't complain, at least. So that's always a good time.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Things are chugging along, right? So all's
Yeah,
well.
we're getting there. We're getting there, slowly but surely. So I know that you've been actually starting to brush up on some new skills. Now that we're getting into the nitty gritty. So you've started to do some animation. Have you done any animation before?
Yeah. So actually, I have done some animation like back in the day, but I would, to be honest, like to be fair, like it'd be like everything has been just more of like I dabbled in it, so nothing like full on. So it's actually been really exciting, a little nervous, but in a way also like this is kind of like part of the apart from just like working in games and stuff like that, this is kind of like a little dream come true as an artist. Like, oh, here we go, I'm animating, making these characters move. But I've done traditional and some like things like After Effects
Hmm.
before, yeah.
Okay, so you've at least gotten like a base knowledge, even if not an extensive look at least before now. Like, so what's it like animating now, especially using your own artwork and everything for a
um
game?
in a sense, like, so with the other stuff I've animated, I've been lucky, I guess, in that sense that if it wasn't for school, but if I worked for somebody, I still had the opportunity usually to make the character that was like being animated. So
Hmm.
that's kind of been something I'm it's always exciting to make your own characters move, but I feel like if anyone's ever animated and if you haven't and are interested, I highly recommend it because there's this effect that happens when someone or when you're animating, and it's the moment that there's usually a character like you're looking at, or even like it's like the first animation thing they make you do, which is a bouncing ball. Is you first look at the page and you see that circle, but once you get all those frames right, or it could be a character, and there's just a split second or just moment when you actually are like convinced that this is no longer just like a piece of paper, but there's this person that just like is like in another dimension, like moving. I I mean, I'm no mother, man, but I felt like I just had a baby. I was just like, oh my gosh, dude. It's like I got all emotional. And I know I'm being a little dramatic, but I'm not joking. It's such a amazing feeling. And that's always like kept me so fascinated with the animation. And, I mean, I feel like the world must feel the same way because it seems like, when it comes to games or movies, I'm like, we're still like, Disney's still killing it out there, and video games are still killing it. So there must be something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you always, because obviously you've always been in art of some sort, but have you always just wanted to animate your own art?
I think I don't know if it's I've always wanted to be like an animator, but I think when people like draw characters or like to create worlds, I think you can't help it. Even if you're like you don't like if you're not like even if you just think about those things, I think it doesn't hurt to ever wonder like what would it be like if I could make these things come to life. So I always feel like it's one of those things like even if you're not necessarily like an artist, the idea of animation is always something that's like catches people. And for me personally, it definitely was always part of it that I wanted to like try out. And I guess I kind of lucked out with the game being that because it was one of those moments where apart from making like making a really cool game, hopefully everyone agrees with us, in the future, like it was cool to kind of bring that to life.
Yeah, definitely. It's really cool to see the start of what you're working on, and I'm just curious. Like, I want to see where it goes and how far it goes. Really, um, it's really cool to see everything that everybody's working on, and just it's like I almost like want to rush to the end and like see what that is gonna end up being.
Yeah. Like if you could just kind of like jump to the future, just take a quick peek, see how it's looking. Like all right, and then like come right back and be like, yo, it's gonna be. Hopefully, it'll be like, yeah, it's totally alive, it's working, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's cool to see the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool to see the constant improvement. And obviously, I mean, you've been working on it for a bit now. Do you feel like you're a bit more comfortable doing it now?
Um, yeah, definitely. And I mean, animation. I'll say it right now. It's no joke. It takes some serious concentration and lots of like I guess I would call it like it's like brain exercise because there's a lot of things that like I would say initially for me it's like your mind does a lot of like it's kind of like those TVs how they fill in the frames for you. Your brain initially will do that. So you're like so here just like if you guys want to do like a thought experiment like imagine somebody just walking. And honestly when you do it it's like it's totally there in your mind. But the I feel like the fundamental that I'm technically going through right now in animation is that you don't for me at least I didn't realize that how much of that has to do with your mind is so capable of like filling in the essentially the general idea that when I actually started to have to like actually do like what is the body like the locomotion of the body doing step by step and moment by moment like that's the part where you're just like what like what and then like before you know it you just look like you have this like you ever see those like Boston Dynamic robots when they're like first
Yeah.
figuring out everything it's just like does not compute but then like they probably get and maybe that's the goal is like eventually they get like pretty like amazing but like I'm talking about the beginning phase where it's just like I'm like what is this thing doing it doesn't even understand like it just doesn't look right I feel like I'm making a bunch of Frankensteins.
Well, I mean, you gotta think that's an advantage of mocap nowadays. Is like the bigger studios can just motion capture like an actual real person doing this stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally understand now, like, because with our style, I mean, we're not necessarily going to be something that looks like, I don't know if you saw, but like, we don't our game's not exactly going to look like The Last of Us with all those little
Yeah,
details going on. Like, I can only imagine, like, the mocap is almost necessary. Like, I mean, imagine, like, having to animate, like, the most realistic, like, fabric, the most
it,
realistic face for expressions
I
constantly.
mean, you gotta think it has to almost be damn near impossible to like hand animate all that stuff. I mean, I'm sure it's possible. It would just make everything a lot longer
And
to
I
do.
guess yeah, and a lot more expensive because
Yeah.
yeah, because I think that's also like what you said is like there's something about the human brain, and I guess that's what I'm going to be focused on about that is it just that's how it feels to me is like your brain, you might not be able to necessarily say it, but the moment you see something wrong, your
Yeah.
body, your eyes like instantly they're like that's not right. It's kind of like the uncanny valley. Like once
I
you
was about to
notice it,
say that. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been a very humbling experience, but nonetheless, like it's super exciting because I mean I've always wanted to do this, and I will say that so far I'm actually making some growth, and especially gone beyond the point that like dabbling is it's something more than dabbling at this point. So I hope people out there, once the game's out, you will enjoy the animations that we make
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
this.
Know that we actually had somebody do them bit by bit, hand by hand. So
Maybe once we're like there and the game's out, we can like show what the original like walk cycles were. It's just like, what is this thing?
yeah. 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 Definitely. We definitely need to throw some videos out on that at some point once we're out there, just so people can see that progress that we already see from month to month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
animation wise, have you what kind of stuff did you enjoy growing up? That
Let's see. I mean, to be honest, I'm sure like there were so many things, and I can kind of let me start. I guess I'll start with the like things everyone says. Definitely your Disney movies,
yeah,
and 100% like anime. But for me, I'm trying to remember if I can like think of the first time like I like when you first realize like oh this is not a world like this is actually something that somebody's doing. I'm actually not sure when that happened, but like I honestly can tell you, like I kind of go through the whole gamut of like shows. Like essentially whatever my childhood had, I was like down to watch. But I definitely have my favorites, which is like, it's like Shocker, it's things like Dragon Ball Z. Um, again, like just Disney movies in general. Like, I guess, people, because I guess it'll be a good way to time capsule. Like, I'll tell you right now, I am so stoked for Frozen 2. I cannot wait for that movie.
Well, and to think about, like, if you think about older Disney stuff
hmm
too, like all of that stuff is handmade.
Yeah.
So and literally to have to draw all of that stuff like frame by frame is just insane.
No, yeah, it seems like I don't know the full history, but I definitely was like trying to dive into like Disney, especially when they had the I guess they call them the old nine, which are like the original like animators from back in the day,
hmm
and how each of them had their own strength. And but one of the things they definitely did was they had to learn how to use like everything they could or do, and like if you actually search for it, you could find things for like I believe it's like Snow White. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget them. Like, what's her name from Alice in Wonderland, and all these characters, even like Sleeping Beauty. Like, you'll find that they actually use a lot of live footage to really understand what was happening when it came to like the fabric and the motion and gesture. Because I think I mean, I can't speak for them, but there's a lot of things that you can like stylize, but I feel like there's an initial like human essence that you have to first grasp that we can see, and then they seem to like work with that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So in that aspect, in your everyday life now that you're starting to animate stuff, do you pay more attention to just people walking or, the motions people make, that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, yeah, I totally. And like to the point that sometimes you're like, you kind of feel like you're like, I hope I'm not looking weird. Like I'm just staring at this dude walking down the street, and they're like, why are you looking at me, man? Like I'm like, I'm just trying to understand the locomotions, bro. Don't mind. I'm just checking out to see how your hips move, and it's like all this. But like, no, yeah, you start doing all kinds of things like even just things like if someone's sitting or standing and they begin to lean, it like because especially right now for me, I think because I'm in the beginning phase of animation,
Mhm.
it almost feels like doing the almost the over the top movements, or I kind of find them easier. It's the things that have nuance.
Yeah, the subtleties.
Yeah, it's things like, for example, like blinking. You would think that blinking is literally like eyes open, eyes closed, but you kind of find out that there's actually a whole rhythm to that. That like, and even for example, if you like delay the way the person opens their eyes or things like that. Like actually, if you watch, like go ahead and watch something like even in the newer or older, I think, films from Disney or other animated films. Sometimes if you do that quick pause in the between a cutscene, you'll
hmm
almost see that their faces like distort or like they have like one eye half open, the other eye is like completely closed, and you kind of look like it looks just like that moment in real life when someone took a picture when they shouldn't have.
Right.
And it's kind of like one of those things where you realize that there is something to the way that people move in those subtleties that create that like I don't know, like I guess I call it that thing that makes you really believe that there's somebody there. Um, like I think the one that's really I think you could find on I think it's like YouTube is it's called is from the Jungle Book. If you search Shere Khan, there's a
hmm
scene where the I think the artist's name is Milt Kahl. He's one of the OG like nine old animators. And there's a scene where Shere Khan like kind of gets down in the bushes, and you just see the way he like uses the shoulder muscles, and he like perches his legs down like he's ready to pounce like a tiger, and it's just like you're convinced that this tiger is about to go and like just eat somebody. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I mean we haven't gotten to the point where we're doing like enemies or creatures or anything like that.
hmm
So obviously, I think you'll probably watch maybe a lot more nature stuff at that point.
Oh, yeah, like things are right now like I'm looking honestly for things like Archive or like BBC like nature videos with what's his name, Sir Rowan Atkinson, that guy, And then they had the bird. That's like the worst accent, but I tried it. It's like, But yeah, just watching those kind of things, it just makes you like really like. I don't know, man. It feels like it's like having like a third eye. You just start looking at things in a different light. You're just like, oh, huh, you know. But yeah. So it's been super interesting, just kind of trying to see anything. And I mean, I don't know if we get that kind of feedback, but if anyone like who's listening is like knows about like just good things to like kind of check out, I mean, let us know because at this point I'm all ears to hear anything about animation or like where you
Yeah.
guys get reference or something.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a good idea. If there's any other devs out there that listen to us by chance that have an idea, or just anybody that's interested in animation in general, yeah, definitely send it our way. Social media at winterborngames.com is the email address there, and I could send that on to Moody too. So, but yeah, I think that's super interesting just to kind of figure that stuff out, and almost because we have to think forward a little bit, but we can't think too far forward, if that makes sense.
Like, I think I know what you mean.
So like on the stuff that we're going to be doing in the future, um, so like you can kind of think about it now, like what kind of creatures are we going to make, like that sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's stuff that you're thinking about, but you also have to concentrate on what you're doing, in this moment.
Yes, and currently, I think for me, yeah, with what you just said, like I'm learning really quick. Like I'll essentially try to design a character or design essentially like an attack or just the way they're standing. And as I'm like learning with that stance or whatever I'm doing, I actually kind of find that sometimes I realize that maybe I must have learned something new because I kind of am like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have posed them like that because it actually doesn't achieve the thing I thought it was going to do. So it really is a lot of like troubleshooting, but
Mm.
I guess it's just kind of part of it. It's like I imagine, maybe that's kind of how animation. I feel like really anything. It's like you try it, it doesn't work. Okay, let's try the other thing, see if that works out.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of trial and error, and I mean, I think that's kind of the good part about the position you're in now is you get a little bit of a chance to trial and error, so that way you can figure out at least how to do it and what seems more natural.
hmm Oh, by the way, I want to ask, do you have like a top 10 or top 5 or whatever, like cartoon movies or like anime or, anything like that?
Um, to be honest, like it's for me, like I haven't watched a lot of animated stuff in a long time.
Boo. No, I'm joking.
And it's not like it's I think it was just one of those things where like when I was young, I watched so much of it,
Mm.
and then I think as a teenager, I kind of like like almost like a rebellious teenager thing, like nah, that's kid stuff.
Yeah. You're
Like
like, what?
I don't
I
have
ain't a child no more.
like even though like now I realize that like man, I really should have been paying more attention to some of this stuff because like it's the few things here or there I see here is like this is pretty good, but like as a teenager and early like late teens, early 20s, I just didn't pay attention to a lot of stuff, so it's kind of hard to come up with that off the top of my head. But
hmm
the ones I mean, obviously the big ones I remember as a kid were the ones that like Aladdin and Lion King, um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that I was into, because those were the big ones. Like when I was, you know, Aladdin came out in '92, so I would have been like 6 at the time. So I mean, so that's kind of the one that imprints, and then Lion King was a couple years after that. So I mean, those are the ones that kind of imprint in my brain, and those are the ones
hmm
I remember the most because I mean, I watched the hell out of those cassettes. So
No, man, I mean, dude, they're excellent movies. And oh man, just like see with like saying that, like even just kind of going back now to like really appreciate like Aladdin, especially like the genie, like Robin Williams, and how they
mhm.
like use his voice to essentially create all of that. Like I'm just convinced, like like that's like to me, it's one of the things that just goes to show like how they were able to, how that one actor inspired so much for like for their character, the genie. I mean, obviously they do that, but like it's just I feel like all his wordplay just kind of comes into it, and then like how he would use his impersonations, and they would like just switch him into like a Jack Nicholson or whatever else he turned into. It was fantastic.
Yeah, they did a great job on that movie. That's one that I actually can't wait till Disney Plus comes out so I can go back and watch it.
Oh yeah, that's totally coming out. Man, oh, dude, yeah, we're just gonna have those now. Is that what's gonna happen?
Yeah, yeah. So just, in like a month and a half, we'll be able to just, pop on an app and watch Aladdin or Lion King or, you know, 70 years worth of animated stuff from Disney. So,
It makes me wonder, and I mean, I might be going off a tangent, but since we're just talking about, I'm like, you think they're gonna put everything, like even like every like old school cartoon, regardless of like if it's, I guess you can say technically okay for today or whatever. Like, you think they're gonna put everything?
I don't know if they'll do everything. But I think they'll do the majority of like their big big hit stuff.
Mm.
So I mean, I definitely think you'll see, your Cinderellas, your Snow Whites, Fantasia, like all the big stuff. I don't know if they'll do like the old like Steamboat Willie stuff, like that old stuff that that sort of thing. But
Hmm.
it'd be cool to see that sort of stuff from like a historical standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I guess I mean they'll do what they gotta do, but like, yeah, I'm very much always just interested in watching. It doesn't even have to be about animation, but regardless if something like, let's say it's not appropriate or what, just for the historicalness of it, just to know what was being shown or what it was, it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's like, and to see almost like that stuff then too, and just to see how it's progressed. Because really, like, if you think about it, like that stuff's really only 100 years old at this point. Like animation. I mean, obviously, there's probably some like rudimentary animation out there but like as far as like animation on film and stuff, it's like still pretty recent. Like if you think from a big historical concept.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that stuff, like, if just again to bring it back to animation, when I watch like Steamboat Willie and those kind of things, like that stuff is like, it seems like, I feel like there's something that might be like simple looking, but when you actually, like, again, animation wise, I'm like, yo, maybe I'm just not good at animation, but I'm like, this stuff is not easy. I was like looking at this stuff, essentially like what Cuphead is, like, to do that wiggly thing, like, it's not like, I don't know, it's like almost like an effect. I still haven't figured out how to do it. How everyone's limbs are just kind of like boneless and just like kind of like a bunch of spaghetti dancing. It's like, it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so interesting about Cuphead is they took that old style and was able to recreate it with such care and like fine tune it to actually look like it was from the early 1900s.
Hmm.
Like it's amazing, and I think that's what literally sold that game to pretty much everybody who saw it. You see that and it's like, what the hell is it? Like this is
Yeah.
like holy crap, like and then like it's you see that somebody can have a controller and move these characters and it's like, really, that's not just like an animation, you can actually interact with this. I mean, it's crazy how technology has allowed us to do something like that, even
Mm.
if like the art style is considered like a classic older art style, but we can now use it in new ways.
Yeah, we've really, funny enough, I guess, and I don't know if it's a technology thing or just people have the opportunity, but it really feels like when you say it like that, Cuphead, for example, and even like the new Guilty Gear and Dragon Ball Z,
Yeah.
like games, we're at a place where we can actually get to that stage where you can look at a game and be like, am I watching a cartoon or is it a game, And
Hmm.
it's quite amazing that, like, I feel like that's not until we were just talking about it, I didn't realize that, like, oh, we've reached that. We've actually gotten to that point where that's one of those, I feel like, the bucket list that, like, all these gamers, like, from back in the day were like, I wish we could finally play a game that just looks like, it's like that. Like, I wish the game looked like a cutscene. And
Yeah.
we're also kind of getting there too. Like,
I mean,
again,
we're pretty
yeah.
much there, man. Like, um, it's funny because it just makes me think of a story because I have a spare Xbox One that I thought the hard drive was going out on, so I like stopped using it for a long time. So I took it and put it down in my living room, and I was just like, I was watching like the WWE Network on it one day, and my mom like comes in and she's just like, are you playing a game?" And I was like, "No, I'm just watching TV." But like, obviously, she didn't realize that like maybe games aren't quite there, but they're
Right,
like
right,
right
right.
there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that we're like right on that cusp. I think once we hit like the next generation, I think
Hmm.
it's we're pretty much like at that at that point. And you see games like, I mean, we all saw the Last of Us 2 trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, and stuff like that, and games like Red Dead. I mean, we're literally right there.
Yeah, they got such. I mean, Ellie looks so realistically pissed off, dude. She
Yeah,
gonna
like,
kill everything, dude.
and I think it's that just like everything is, all of the different technologies are matching up. So you have animations now, like with mocapping, and how far that has come to the point where they're actually realistic, instead of like ever instead of an animator having to watch a reference and having to like literally pinpoint every like little thing, even subtleties, because I mean, just from someone smiling, there's so many subtle things that happens with their facial features that unless you're mocapping that, it's very hard to recreate.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know the exact number, but they're always like, there's like takes 53 muscles in your face to smile or something. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So it's like how much how much of that is, can you it'd be so hard and so time consuming to get that perfectly as an animator, but
Hmm.
now with motion capture, you can get like so close that you can't really even tell the difference.
Hmm. I
So
also I also think we just if we're talking about like mocap, or I guess it's more. I guess I'm talking more about the realism and graphics, but I feel like just because we're talking about it, like
well, I
horror
think it
games, I
goes hand
feel
in hand.
yeah, I feel like horror games have gotten such an extra boost. Like I think
Mm.
we mentioned this last podcast, but like Resident Evil 7 and PT, like I mean, if things didn't look that scary, man, like gosh, like with Resident Evil 7, it's just like it's just like that gore, that blood, and like the grotesque like blood and guts.
Well,
Ugh.
well that's why if you I don't know if you remember when the new Mortal Kombat was coming out, but everybody was like, "Man, is this like, are we do we really like want all this gore in it now?" Because
Yes, yes, so much.
because it's like it's so realistic now that it's like, and to think like people were crying about Mortal Kombat like the original, when it
Hmm.
was just like, it's like obviously this isn't real, but at the time people were like, man, this is too violent, but now it's like it actually looks like it could be real. So like, where's that line, you know?
Yeah, I just love it because like sometimes when because I feel like and that, obviously this is totally not what went down, but I just feel like when you're watching the fights and you get those like really good hits in and you get that like X-ray, it's like they're like how can we show more? They're like just give us a freaking X-ray and just show his face breaking and all that.
Yeah,
It's like what it's like Mortal Kombat plus 1,000 ways to die. It's the
yeah,
best thing. I love it because to me it's like they go so far with it. It's like awesome, like all the things they can do with that.
yeah. And I think like, I think for me, like, I totally understand if you don't want to see that stuff. But I think Mortal Kombat has always kind of pushed that line,
Yeah,
if that makes sense. That's just what they've always done. So like, I'm
yeah,
not surprised like that they continue to do that.
man,
But I also think it's cool, like, if that's not your thing, you know.
yeah. And also, I mean, like if you're good at it, man, you gotta flaunt it, right? And dude, and
Yeah.
like I mean, the game's called Mortal Kombat with a K. You know what you're getting. You know what you're getting into when you do this, man. Like don't even right. Just like
Yeah,
just get in
exactly. I
there.
mean, yeah, you know what you signed up for. Like, I mean, I don't expect, the like the Hello Kitty game when I'm thinking Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah, it's just really just, it's your responsibility to, and your decision whether that's for you or not, but I still enjoy it. So I was actually playing not the newest Mortal Kombat, but I was playing X today, so it's kind of weird
Nice.
that we got into that conversation. But
Also, like,
but
not to be like that, but like, yeah, when you get that many numbers at the end of your game, I mean, you must be doing something right.
yeah. I mean, that's true. There's not a whole lot of games that have that many numbers anymore. So um, yeah, it's definitely you definitely are doing something right if you've lasted that long. So they're definitely doing. I think they were smart enough to change things up when they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
So
So yeah, I'm not sure how we got there, but yeah, dude, it's it's a great game.
yeah, hey man, we sometimes in a podcast you just work your way around on some things, but um, but like you were saying, I think the realistic graphics go hand in hand with the animations. I think they inform the other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like these graphics look so good and so lifelike because the animation behind it is so good.
Yeah, it's true. It's like I know this. Every time I say I know a phrase, by the way, guys, it's like I know of a phrase. Am I gonna say it right? Probably not. But I'm gonna do my best to break it down for y'all. Which is, it kind of goes down with UI, and they always say that the thing is like UI can sometimes be seen as a not a lost art, but as art that's unseen because essentially the best kind of UI art is is when you don't even realize it's doing its job. It's almost like
Yeah.
the seamless effect. And to some extent, it seems to me that like in many ways, like that animation when it comes to characters or anything, just like you know, someone jumps and like lands on the floor or like brushes their hand against a wall and dust like crumbles off or who knows what. Like
Yeah.
those little things, like if done right, and I'm sure so many games do, you don't realize they're even happening because you just that's what you expect, right? And it's that thing is when they do their job so well, it's like you don't even realize you're just completely immersed, which I guess is the best thing, but it kind of in a way unfortunately means that these guys sometimes don't get like I don't know if they don't get the shout, but it's like I feel like they're behind the curtain, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think when it comes to like games or movies or a lot of the credit tends to go towards those people in charge or those that at least those like the game directors or like the lead designers or like for a movie the directors or the writer or etc.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, I mean, if you, especially in games, if you look at it and see every single person that in those credits, I mean, they're all important in their own way. Um, really, that game couldn't be the game that it is without every person there.
Yeah, no,
So,
100%.
but yeah, I mean, I think that's important to realize. But I think it's also one of those things that if you're not on the side of like on the dev side of the fence, it might just be something that your mind just doesn't realize. Like it's something that you don't actively think about. It's just like
Yeah.
you play this game, you see the pieces, but like immersion is what they want. Like so you get immersed in like the new God of War or something. You are immersed. You're led on this ride on the
Mm-hmm.
just you don't think about that at all. Going,
Yeah.
so you're just so locked into it that you don't think like there was like 100 people that like animated Kratos's face in this scene that made that possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things where you're just not conscious of.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, to be honest, to be fair, yeah, like I mean, to be honest, like I feel like even getting more conscious of it just simply because I am in the position of doing something similar to those in that position. Because now I'm like, now when I play my games and anything, I'm just like, I'm definitely like re-looking, and I feel like I see everything in a new light. I'm just like, oh wow, I'm like, did you see the way that person like reacted to the weight of the weapon they just swung or all that? I'm like, oh, so cool. or just like the little things, just like it's again those nuances that kind of just make you. Now that I can see them, I'm like, oh, dude, that like makes you just believe that that person's right there breathing. And like for example, like you'll see someone like slam a heavy weapon, and then as they hit the last thing, you kind of see their weight finally like lock down as it hits with the force, and then just even like a little exhale, just sort of like a little whew, like that, like at the end of it, and then they
Yeah.
go, and then you see them like rake it back up on their shoulder. I'm just like, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's something to think about too, and like you say that you think about it more that you're now that you're working on animation stuff. I start to think about that more, just like when I'm playing a game, and then if there's like a small thing that I don't like, I like in my head I try to like be like, well, why did they make this design decision?
Mm.
Like, why did they decide to do this? And then I can kind of almost like in my head realize, oh, they probably did it like this because of this. So I've started to think of like when I'm playing games in a different way, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Um, but I can kind of almost think like, oh, they probably did like this because of this, and almost in a way because I've been playing a lot of Gears 5.
Oh,
Um,
how is it, by the way?
it's fantastic. Um, but I've been playing a lot like of horde mode, like online with friends and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So like you'll have those moments where like everybody does with a group of friends where it's like this part happens, or like there's a certain enemy that does like this thing, and like someone will get mad at like why does it do it like this, or like why like or like a menu thing like actually here's a great example. In Gears 5, in between rounds of horde, there's a menu basically pops up with the score
Hmm.
um, after the round, but like they put like the mute button on like a common button that someone would just push, so you might accidentally mute people that you're not meaning to mute, just because you were going through the motions.
So
Um,
wait, like when the pop-up comes, there's a button that lets you in that time mute somebody. Is that what you're
yes.
saying?
Hmm.
Oh.
So like essentially when that comes up, I think it's like X, and you'll mute someone if you're going down the list of people in the match. Which it's a nice feature for those like if you're playing online with people you don't know, and you just get into a game that has somebody that's wants to be annoying and a troll online. So
Hmm.
like I understand why they have like that, but at the same time it's like, well, you guys put it on a common button that someone's probably already pushing just because the menu just popped up, and they didn't realize it was about to pop up. So like why didn't maybe they should have put it on like Y, or a different button that wasn't gonna be pushed like right then. You know what I mean? So it's just like the little stuff like that I think about, and it's like, well, why would they do that? But sometimes it just comes down to they just didn't think about it,
Mm-hmm.
and it almost makes me think of like when we have our game, is there going to be something like that I have, because I'll be doing the majority of the testing for the game, that I will see and play and do 1,000 times that I just will not think about, and that will annoy people, and not on purpose, you know.
They'll be like,
So
"Come on, Trevor. Why? Why'd you miss that, bro? Come on."
yeah, so
I mean, I mean, like, I'm sure if the, I mean, like, I feel like sometimes, like, I don't know if there's such a thing as like, I mean, we're obviously going to try our best, but like, sometimes, like, I think because what sometimes feels like, like you were saying, if like something might feel like natural for someone,
mhm,
and then it may totally not feel natural for somebody else,
yeah,
And it's always interesting, like, I think, I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but where we didn't, I think we might have talked about how, like, how they introduced tutorials about, like, camera, or was
mhm,
this another, I feel like I listened to this on a podcast, but, like, it's like, which way is the camera supposed to turn when you turn to the right? Is it, like, inverted, or is it
okay, yeah,
like, because one is as if, like, it's imagining that you are holding the camera from the back, so if you tilt it to the right, it's like you're turning the camera so that its lens is looking to the left.
right,
And then if you, or the other way, which is just if you hit right, the screen turns to the right. So it's like one of those things like how do you, like get people to do that? And some of the games will be like they'll just ask you to turn your head, and however you do it is the way that it asserts it for you after that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting like how people try to figure out ways to get people to adapt to the player as opposed to being like, we play inverted. So you're gonna like start with that, then change it if you want. But by just asking the player to look to the right, and if they do it as if they were using an inverted control, then the game registers the game as an inverted camera. You know.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating how people like. I guess that's something we're gonna have to go through, which is like that sort of like figuring out how to make sure that the experience has a good flow. I guess.
Yeah, I think that'll be something that we get feedback from when we actually start showing the game, at shows and stuff. So, or friends and family stuff, like people that maybe wouldn't normally play our game too, like that could help a ton too. So, it'll be interesting when we're to that point, because like I just want like now that we're like into it, since my thought process is slowly changing, and where I'm just thinking about stuff more from a development side. Like I just want to see what other people think. So
yeah, me too. Honestly, like I can't wait.
And I think part of that too is like we're stuck in the bubble of like the five of us. So like obviously we're gonna get like a little bit of feedback from like Genevieve, who's Kent's wife, and maybe even Mel, who's Jack's girlfriend, every once in a while, or even Boo's wife on some stuff. But it's like one of those things where like, yeah, we'll maybe get a little bit of feedback from them on certain things, but other than that, I mean, we're pretty we're pretty insulated with the five of us, so it's a whole lot of information that we have to try to take in. So
yeah, definitely, it's gonna be definitely another hill to go up.
I think I got exhausted thinking about it.
I know, me too. I just want to take like a little deep sigh, but hey, I mean, it's kind of what we signed up for. Which I mean, like in the end, it's like I rather do that than not.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I'm excited of the prospect of getting it out there and stuff like that. So I think in the long run, this is going to be awesome for everybody. So. But
it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Please buy our game when it comes out.
Buy it. Subconsciously, like, buy it now. Buy it now.
Well, I mean, technically they can't buy it now, so we're
okay. When the game is out, buy it now. Buy it now.
If you're listening to this, however long it is from now that we actually release the game, please, if it's out and you're going back into the archives to listen to us rant about this stuff, then please go do it.
It's like that. What's his name? The Sith Lord. He's like, do it, do it now. Bye. I don't even know, man. I'm just exhausted, but that's the first thing that came in my mind. I was just like, yeah, do it. Bye.
I think that's all right. But I think we had a good discussion about animation today, Moody.
I think so too, man. It's been, like I said, it's been a really interesting journey, and I mean, hopefully, like I said again, when things are out, man, I can't wait to show everybody what we've been tinkering with.
Definitely. I can't wait. So Moody, I want to thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, bro. Absolutely.
I can't wait to see you in a few weeks' time.
I know, right?
As we all get together, and I want to thank everybody that listens. We appreciate you. If you want to comment or have any questions for us, just send them at social media at winterborngames.com. I will see every single one. Please rate, review, and subscribe us on iTunes because that lets other people see the podcast, see the podcast image. Got you there, Kent. And so that they can discover us too and listen, hopefully. So we thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back next week.
And for those in the future, buy it. Do it. Do it.